I don't care at all to like talk about what I'm struggling with or what I used to struggle with, what I'm struggling with now, my weaknesses, because one, it keeps me accountable. Two, it reminds me daily that I need to stay connected to my Savior. And three, hopefully it encourages other people and maybe gives them the courage to say, you know what, I don't want to live in the dark either.
What's up, fam? This is JJ with the mini Man-sode Friday. We got a recurring guest today, Dave Willis, without the wifey, Ashley. You guys might have seen them on Instagram. They're with Naked Marriage and XO Marriage. I love Dave so much. I hope you guys enjoy the episode as much as I did. Dave might be one of the funniest guests that we've ever had on. He really feels like a big brother to me. He is so vulnerable. It really challenges me as a man to step out in vulnerability with my wife, with my friends, and with my community group all around me. So love you guys. Have a wonderful day. And this is the Heart of Dating podcast. Let's go.
Dave. I love Dave.
And Kate is making a nice, intro.
I love Dave. He's the best.
We love Dave too. So there you go. I guess Kate is joining this intro for a mini Man-sode Friday, which she didn't get the memo to. Love you guys. What's up, fam? I got my man Dave in the house. Dave, how's it going?
JJ, man, I am honored to be here. I saw that you listed this as BFF recording, and that just warmed my heart. Because for you to let an old guy like me, be cool enough to get to hang out with JJ, just warms my heart.
Well, this is first of all, I feel just as honored. And Dave, when he replied to me, was just like, honestly, don't even have to record it. Like if you just want to hold an hour on my calendar and we talk, I'm cool with that too.
Fine, yeah. And others can listen in if they want. It's fine.
And well, this is actually your second time. You're a repeat guest.
So I'm doubly honored.
Yeah, well, we don't know if it was because of your wife, and how wise and awesome and smart she was. So today's kind of a test,
No. My wife is the reason why I get almost any invitation. It's like she gets invited somewhere and they're like, you can have a +1. And then I just sort of tag along. So this is one of the rare times I'm invited somewhere without her. I feel naked.
I know, it feels weird. Hey, the same thing for me. My wife, she gets all the invites. Everyone always compliments me, and then they look over at me and they're like, "Oh, and there's JJ too."
Hey, you're a star. You are a star.
I appreciate that
in every way.
I appreciate that. Well, I really do look up to you. The reason why I asked you to do this episode today is I love following your content. I think even for single, you and Ashley would be a wonderful couple to follow, just because I think it's really nice to have an idea of what healthy marriage looks like, right? And that kind of helps form and shape our search as singles. And I just cannot recommend you guys and XO and Naked Marriage enough. I personally love listening to you guys, and we'll plug you guys at the end of the episode. But one thing that you do really well, and what we'll talk about in just a moment, is vulnerability, and just you're so vulnerable publicly with your guys' life, with your emotions and with your feelings, and where you might have messed up in the past, and what you struggle with. And so as far as just like respect from man to man, I told you on the pre-call, and I'll tell you again now for everyone, I respect you so freaking much,
man,
especially in a world like today.
Thank you. You are too kind. I mean, I blow it all the time. I mean, I blow it even the first time we met in person. I picked the restaurant. I sent you the GPS coordinates to the restaurant. I said, now there are two of the same restaurant in this town, so go to this one. And I sent you the actual address. And then I went to the other one and waited there for you. After all of that, I sent you across town. And then, even though it was my mistake, you guys drove to me. Like, I don't deserve you. You're just too good for me. So like, you're building me up is what I'm saying. And I'm very, very flattered. But in big ways and in small ways, I blow it all the time.
Well, as someone who blows it twice as worse and makes even dumber mistakes and decisions, hey man, I look at you with even more respect because you really are graceful, and I love being with you. As far as background, I can hype you up, or you can hype yourself up. As far as just like who you are, what you do, kids. Being an awesome dad, being an awesome speaker, being an awesome podcast. Like, you want to go
Maybe a
in
little
really
more, but
quick
then
and
stop.
just.
No, I mean, we got 4 boys. Our youngest turns 9 years old today. Today is his birthday. And so we've got a 9-year-old all the way up till a freshman in college who will turn 19 in a few months. And so there's about a 10-year gap between oldest and youngest. Ashley and I have been married for, it's 22 years. It'll be 23 years, May 19th that we've been married. So that's a long time, that's a long,
It went by quick.
Yeah, it went by real quick. It really did. I mean, it's, we talk about it like, I almost feel like we've had, she says, I feel like we've had 5 marriages so far, all to each other, but like, because of just the seasons of life and how different life can look in each season. And with the moves that we've made and with kids and different jobs and different things we were doing, life can look drastically different, but I love that we've done it all together. And I'm excited for the next 5 marriages with each other. It's been a fun ride.
Tim Keller says, I've been married to like 13 different women and all their names are Kathy, in the course of their marriage. Well, and you forgot somebody, right? There's one little person who you forgot about as well.
Chi-Chi.
In your crew. Chi-Chi.
Yeah, our little Chiweenie. She is half Chihuahua, half Dachshund, all warrior, all 10 pounds of her. She just, she sits in the window most of the day and just goes crazy barking at UPS drivers and dogs walking by. And then that wears her out. And then she just naps and cuddles the rest of the day. So she's got a pretty easy life.
I saw the funniest meme the other day, and I thought of Chi-Chi, and it was just like this dog standing on 2 legs with like an AK-47 and an army hat.
That's like, her. Yeah.
How my dog views himself.
It's a good thing she's not armed. She's all talk though. She barks and barks when there's like a window between her and something. But as soon as she gets face to face with somebody, she just kind of flops on her back. I mean, she's all talk.
It's always the little ones, man. I feel like if I could summarize myself as a dog, I'd be like Chi-Chi, all bark. And then when my wife gets home, I just kind of roll over on my stomach,
rub my belly.
No, well, okay. So today, I think, and I just said it, you're so vulnerable when you speak, specifically on your podcast and platform. My assumption was, for you to be that vulnerable, and I'm sure you have deep reasons why. I'm sure you're more vulnerable behind closed doors. I've experienced that to a degree, right? In our limited time together, and it was limited because you sent me the wrong address and we did not relate. But no. But even in our limited time, I was like, man, you are more vulnerable than most men I've ever met, and you're also not maybe that traditional guy who's able to talk about your emotions and feelings and weaknesses in such a vulnerable way. Have you always been that way, or is that just something that you like woke up one day and you're like, I'm going to be so vulnerable?
Man, that's a great question. The really, really insightful question. I don't think I've ever thought about it that way, but thinking about it now, I would say some of the vulnerability it's a response to how it went really badly the times in my life that I tried to hide things. And so like a lot of the chaos and the frustration and the pain that I have caused in life has happened from trying to keep secrets instead of bringing it out into the light, because I wanted to be perceived a certain way, or I wanted, for people to not find out about some struggle or sin that I had. I had a secret struggle with pornography for years, from my teenage years into early adulthood, into early in our marriage, which we talk about a lot on our podcast. So, I won't hijack the episode talking all about porn, but I know a lot of the guys listening are struggling with that now, and just want to say, hey, you're not alone, but you've got to bring it out into the light, because until you admit that it's a sin, admit, that God's right, that when Jesus said to look with lust is to commit adultery in your heart, and then bring it out into light and get accountability. it's gonna sabotage you. Just like a cancerous tumor inside of you, it grows and metastasizes until you cut it out, until you get it out. And I feel like the way God wired us up, any form of secrecy that we're keeping inside of us, it's kind of like that cancerous tumor. It's not meant to stay inside of us. And if we keep it there, it's going to grow. It's going to get worse. And yeah, cutting it out can feel painful and scary, but it's also the only way to get healing. And so I've learned that the hard way a few times in my life. And so now I just don't want to leave any room for those tumors to take root. So if I'm struggling with something, I want to talk about it openly with Ashley and with trusted friends, but also on the broader, in the broader sense, we, like you said, we try to be very vulnerable on our podcast and from the stage, because, frankly, what we've learned is nobody really cares about listening to somebody who they perceive has it all together and has never made a mistake or had a struggle. They just kind of roll their eyes and they're like, man, I can't relate to these people and this isn't for real anyway.
Right.
But when you're honest about your struggles, when you're honest to say, look, this is what I used to struggle with, this is what I'm struggling with now, this is what that looks like, this is how we're working through that, man, people lean in and they're like, tell me more. And it gives you credibility with folks because they know that you're being real, and it challenges them to be real and to listen to what you have to say. And so with the platform we have, we realize it's temporary, like all things in life, and we don't own it. We're just temporary stewards of it, and we want to be good stewards of it. And so our prayer is like, Lord, for as long as you let us speak to people, help us to be real, help us to be honest. And we want you, Jesus, to be the star, not us. We want, because of what we're saying and doing, people to fall more in love with you and more in love with their spouse and their families to be blessed. And they can forget our names. That's totally fine. We just want to be faithful with this as long as you give that to us. And then even long after we're, on a stage and nobody wants to listen to our podcast anymore and all that, we want to, with each other, the relationships that matter most, we want to continue to model that with our kids, our grandkids someday, with each other, of course, because it's just the way that God designed us to live. And I think we're living in a world now where people know all these kind of deep facts about our life because of social media, because we can curate the story, the narrative through filtered pictures and through what we want people to know. And so we could have 1,000 friends that know stuff about us, and yet we might have 0 people that actually know us. And so we're just trying to flip that script a little bit and say, listen, it's not about building a platform where more and more people know what you had for breakfast. It's about having some community and having healthy relationships with your core group, where there are people that can call you out on things, that love you, but they're not going to let you get away with junk. And you can sharpen each other and encourage each other and pray for each other specifically, like really knowing what's going on. And so we're trying to model that because it keeps us accountable to do those things, but also because I just think all of us need that. God wired us up to need it, and we live in a time where it's more difficult than ever to live with real vulnerability.
Totally. Now, for you, I love that you say, I wasn't always this way, right? Which tells me that, okay, something happened.
Yeah.
Where would you say, you kind of hit that point where like, man, I can't go on living, hiding, not confessing, not being vulnerable. Like, could you walk me through that point where you're just like, because I think that's the scariest point, right? As a man who's also hidden sin, right?
Yeah.
Addictions and things from friendships, from my wife, at times, like there's always that point where it's like jumping off the diving board. What did that look like for you? And what was like that? I gotta tell someone. I got to get rid of this.
Yeah, that's a great question too. I would say for me, a lot of the big transitions for me happened in the college years and then the early years of marriage, because I got married right after college. And in college, I would say like when I went to school, I went with it was like I was confident and insecure at the same time. I think I was insecure in some ways because I'd come from this family that was full of love, and I felt very loved and accepted for who I was. But, from the family, my dad, my whole dad side of the family, they were all these like superstar athletes, huge muscular guys that were just elite athletes. My brothers were both like a head taller than me and like great athletes. And that wasn't my thing. I mean, I'd worked out and, I'd gotten in pretty good shape, but I just wasn't that. They just had a different build than I had. And I thought, well, if that's kind of like what men in our family are about, I feel like, well, do I even measure up? Because I don't look like that. I'm not good at those things. And so like I had some insecurities there because I was just trying to figure out like, well, what is it that I do? Like, what is it that I'm made to do? And I wasn't really sure what that was. And so I felt like through high school, I had good friends and I could be outgoing at times, but I was dealing with a lot of insecurity. And in college, as I started coming out of my shell more and really finding things where I could thrive and leaning into my strengths, at first I was doing that and it was kind of, connected to my faith. But then I think looking back, there was a real sort of just worldly prideful part of me that started to hijack things, and it's taken some of that attention I was getting. And I wanted to, I just wanted to leverage it selfishly. And my relationships started to get unhealthy. I'd always had like, really strict kind of firm boundaries in dating. And I found myself, over a stretch of time, making a lot of compromises in dating relationships and not truly, respecting and protecting and adoring, the women that I was in relationship with the way that God calls us to do. And, I don't know. I mean, I realized that I went from a person that I always thought I was the kind of person that would always just help people, that because of kind of the selfish path that I'd gotten on, I had the secret problem with porn at the time too, which was sort of kind of fueling that brokenness and selfishness, that I was hurting people. Like I was hurting people. And I thought like, how did I get here? Like, how did I get to this place where, I'm unhealthy and I'm just, I don't know, I'm not in a healthy place. And the people that I'm in relationship with, they're not benefiting from that at all.
Yeah. It's almost like because I've been there too. It's like, I'm only out for JJ. If I'm being honest at the end of the day, I'm only out for me.
And the thing about it is all of us can get there quick, but when we're only out for ourselves, we think that it's going to make things good for us, even if other people get hurt. But we get hurt because we're just not wired to live that way. And selfishness hurts the selfish person more than it hurts anybody else. And in that season of selfishness, like I realized like, man, I'm miserable. Like I'm not happy. Whatever I try to do to make me, happy, to feed kind of the selfishness more, it's not working. And, and so I just realized, man, I just don't want to live this way. Like, I don't want to live this. I knew better too. Like I knew that God had a better path for me, but I just kind of made all these little compromises in different parts of my life, thinking like, well, this isn't that big a deal. And that leads to another compromise. And well, that isn't that totally that big a deal either. And, next thing I know, I'm just sort of I'm living justifying a lot of things that I just know aren't God's best. And it was exhausting. And I was just sort of tired. I was tired of it. And, so I'd really tried to I tried to recommit to God, say, look, Lord, I want to do things right. I want to do relationships right, even if it means I'm just not in one, because I would much rather not be in a relationship than to do it the wrong way and wound myself or somebody else. I just want to do it. I want to do things your way, whatever that looks like. And, this was now coming into my junior year of college, and I had planned to study abroad. That was my dream, my goal. I was going to go to England, and I was accepted into this program, and I was like, yes, this is it. I'm going to go have this amazing adventure. And I really just felt like God saying, like, no, I know that's what you think you want, but I got something better for you. I mean, he didn't say it out loud. I've never heard God speak. I've never like walked up on a burning bush or anything, but I just had this sense that he was saying, you got to trust me on this, Dave. Don't go. I got something better for you. And I just couldn't get peace around going. And so I called and I turned down the opportunity, which I was really frustrated about. Spent that whole summer just kind of frustrated, like, Lord, what's this about? But then on that first day of my junior year of the year, I wasn't even supposed to be in the country. In walks Ashley to the very first class. And I was just like, hello, thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord, for holding me back. And really, I mean, I would say, Jesus and Ashley are the reasons for like every good thing in my life. Jesus for saving me and for, of course, all that he does. And then Ashley for the way that she loves me and the way that she helps me to be a better man just by the way that she lives and by who she is. It really did, kind of help me. I wanted to be a better man, like for her. I wanted to be the man that I knew I could be, to earn her respect and to earn her, her trust. And so, we started off on our relationship and things were, were great. We did things the right way. I had, pretty much stayed away from porn, early in our marriage, like a year in, I did fall back into it. And that's when it all came out that this had been a struggle and we had to work through that. But, we had a period really of, several years through like dating and early part of our marriage where, we were doing things the right way, still not perfect, but, and then when I fell back into that porn, it was just a reminder that like, no, I never want to go back here. I never want to be that guy that's keeping these secrets because again, instantly it was that self-loathing again. And it was, I don't want to go back into that pit. I know how I want to live and this isn't it. And so, that working through that together I was just committed that like, I never want to keep secrets again. I just
now, if Ashley was maybe not the safe, like angelic, wonderful woman
right, yeah.
that she is, right? Do you think it still would have been possible for you to be, vulnerable and confess, or do you think it would have?
Well, no, like I didn't have this is why she and Jesus are the heroes of this story. Like I didn't have the courage to confess. See, like I was so wrapped up in just that secrecy mindset that I was convinced like no, like Ashley can never know.
Right. Taking this to the grave.
I'm just taking this to the grave. This is just going to be my issue. I'm going to deal with this. And it was eating me up, but I thought, well, that's just my punishment. It's just going to eat me up. And then she stumbled upon it, thankfully. It was like the worst day and the best day all at once. And this was even long before smartphones. This was back in the dark ages, but on the big clunky desktop computer that we had.
Wait, can I make the sound?
Yeah. It's a sound. Yeah. That, AOL. I guess the one positive thing about looking at stuff you weren't supposed to look at back then as opposed to now is it felt like it took like 30 minutes for like one image to download. So it was like, at least it was speed bumps along the way. But she found where I had been, what I'd been looking at. And, it was devastating to her. I mean, it was shocking to her. And then she felt all this insecurity, like, am I not enough? Why is he doing this? And it has nothing to do with her, of course. Just like if you're, listening and maybe you're a woman listening and you've had a husband or a boyfriend do this, you're like, what's wrong with me? It's never, one person's sin is never somebody else's fault. This was totally a sin issue in me. And even if you're a woman listening and you're struggling with porn, I mean, all of us have to take responsibility for our own actions. And this was a sin that I'd let take root in me. And anytime you let sin take root and you don't deal with it, just like that cancerous tumor, it's going to keep growing. And I felt like working through that and seeing the pain, the unnecessary pain that I'd inflicted on Ashley through that sin and then keeping it a secret. I just thought I never, ever want to create space for this to ever happen again in any part of my life, not just the porn issue, but in any part, because it's in the dark places that we harm ourselves and others. But if we live in the light, and the Bible says we're children of the light, meaning like, let's not like live with all these secrets. It's exhausting. Jesus already paid the price for it. Let him shine the light into every dark corner of our lives and just live freedom, because he's already set us free from it. He's already forgiven us once we go to him and ask. And once you've experienced living that way, it's like, man, I never want to go back. And so now, like Paul said, I'll boast about my weakness, because in my weakness, I'm strong, and it makes Jesus the star. So now, like, I don't care at all to like talk about what I'm struggling with, or what I used to struggle with, what I'm struggling with now, my weaknesses, because one, it keeps me accountable. Two, it reminds me daily that I need to stay connected to my Savior. And three, hopefully it encourages other people and maybe gives them the courage to say, you know what, I don't want to live in the dark either. I want to come to the light too.
Yeah. Well, I just found this out. I was listening to the master of vulnerability from the secular point of view, which is probably Brene Brown. And
she's really smart.
She's
anybody
very smart.
that has an accent mark over part of their name, they're smart. She has that over like one of her E's. And we're like, oh yeah.
That's such a good point. Should we add something to our name?
We should, like JJ with like a little.
Yeah, or like the Danish, like strike through. Through my J.
The 2 dots above something. Yeah, that's fun.
Well, you used a big word when you were talking about cancer. It started with an M.
Metastasize. It's like when
I was like, that's a smart word.
Well, my mom's a nurse. I probably heard it from her. But like when a tumor isn't contained anymore, and it's like the cancer leaks out to other things.
Yeah,
that's what that is, and that's what sin does. It never stays in the little box we create for it.
Amen. Well, okay, so check this out. The Latin root word of courage actually means, this blew my mind, to speak one's mind by telling all one's heart.
Wow.
So think about like the traditional definition of we have a courage today. You think about the Tin Man, right? Or the lion and, having courage. And it's like, it's actually to speak one's mind by telling all one's heart, which is crazy. It's actually referring to speaking and telling and talking all of my heart. Right. And so when I think about the steps that you just listed, I'm like, it just takes such immense courage. And that's why I think, in 2 Corinthians 12, it says, my grace is sufficient for you. My power is made perfect in weakness. And therefore, I will boast all the more gladly in my weakness, so that the power of Christ may rest upon me. And I'm like, man, it's crazy, because I feel like that courage is fueled by grace. And grace, I heard a great quote from Dr. Cloud and Dr. Townsend the other day. It's, grace begins where you admit your powerlessness.
Yeah, that's good.
Grace. So I'm like, man, if I'm a guy and I can say, you know what, I'm actually powerless to confess this, because I've tried to burden it and shoulder it this whole time. And I cannot work up that quote courage. And then I said, but you know what, I'm powerless to talk about this in such a demonstrative, big, clear way, but God's grace actually can fuel that courage.
Wow. Yeah.
And then I can get to that place where I can talk about and actually boast. I suck at physical boundaries. I stink at I was in I work out every single day, and there's women in form-fitting yoga pants everywhere I go. The more I can say, JJ is actually horrible at averting his eyes and not double glancing and going, but the more I can admit that and say, yes, but Jesus is magnified in his power.
Yeah.
The better.
That's so true.
But I guess my question is, as far as like the confession of vulnerability, do you feel like there's a gender stereotype? Like, is there specifically for men a harder reason for us to share? And the word I'd probably introduce here is, does shame have a different effect on men when it comes to kind of exposing and talking about ourselves? I think about, because you're a married man, right? And most of the conversation here is for, marriage, but it's also, for men's groups. right? And male friendship, right? And I think it's like, I think it's hard to share stuff with my wife. I think it's twice as hard sometimes for me to share with a guy best friend sometimes.
Yeah, I see that. That's a great point. Before I answer that, I want to give you one other trick that could help you to not lust at the gym with the yoga pants.
Yeah.
I'm going to send you a picture of me wearing yoga pants, and it will be so haunting that, like, every time you even think about yoga pants, instead of being tempted, you'll feel nauseous. And I would do that for you, like, just to help you with your struggle as a brother. So
yeah.
So just be watching.
Man, if you do that, I'll print it out. I'll have it on my car dashboard. I'll put it on my
you'll never
my
lust
mirror
again.
when I wake up.
You'll be immune. You'd be immune to lust.
I'll make it my phone background.
Kate would probably have some serious issue with that
why
being your
is
phone
a
background.
shirtless man in yoga pants with an abnormal hair growth?
But I don't want to sidestep the very important question, because I do think that I feel like for men, I think that most of us were raised in a way culturally in our families where there was this mindset of like, we don't express emotion, and we don't, that emotion, first off, like starting with the emotion part, that emotion equals weakness, right? Like I can't show emotion because that means I'm showing weakness. Where women have always, not always, but they tend to be more comfortable demonstrating emotion as a way to just show how they're feeling. And we as men often get like intimidated or uncomfortable when our wife is showing any kind of emotion, because it's like, I don't know what to do with that. I don't want to do that. And really, in a lot of ways, they're showing more strength in that like I can demonstrate that I have the courage. That's a courage thing, like you said. It's speaking my whole heart, my whole mind, and it's displaying that even. Whereas as with guys, I don't think we like that definition of courage. We like courage, like, let me, give me a sword and, let me chase off, a bear or something. Actually, most of us don't want to do that either. But
yeah, it's like Braveheart.
Yeah, we want that kind of courage, but yeah, I think that the vulnerability thing, man to man, is something that it's so missing, because I think that whether it's like the way we were taught or the way that we're wired, most of us have this mindset that if I want to earn other men's respect, then the only way that I can do that is to show that I'm totally in control at all times, and that I don't struggle, because guys who struggle must be weak, and they're not in control, and they're not to be respected. And of course, everybody struggles, but we feel like we've got to puff ourselves up, and we have to put on this mask around other men, or maybe even around our wives, our girlfriends, around the women in our lives, because we think, no, the only way to be respected is to show no weakness. And that's just not true. I mean, I think real respect comes from real vulnerability, of having the courage to say, I'm growing, but this is an area right now where I'm really struggling, and I need some men that I can trust to come alongside me and pray with me through this, to hold me accountable in this area, to encourage me in this area, to teach me what they've learned in this area. And until we can have real conversations like that, we're all going to just stay stuck,
Yeah, I would say, it just I'm like, as you say that, I'm like, I really do look back over my life and I say, honestly, the strongest men I've ever been around are the most vulnerable men I've ever been around, and I think that's what I probably, when I say I admire in you, as like when I hear you and I see you. And what's funny, and one thing I actually enjoy about you is, you live in Augusta, Georgia, and you don't golf. It's like you live in probably the biggest golf
capital of the world. I know.
Of the world. And you don't, and you're not like a football guy, right? And I think you majored in theater. Is that right?
Yeah, I did. I did. It was a communication degree, but it had like a lot of theater as part of it. And
okay.
Yeah. And
Well,
I said,
so
I
I
came
would
out of
say
that
like,
still heterosexual. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I wasn't studying hard enough or like what happened. Now I love football. I love watching football. I'm just not like I don't do fantasy football because I'm like, I don't want to keep up with all that. And I don't. I mean,
yeah,
I like sports.
but
I like stuff. I like a lot of stuff that other guys like. But I don't want to do something just because it's what people are doing. And like golf, like all
right.
my friends
And
play golf, and I've played
yeah,
before. It's not like I'm anti golf, but I'm just like, it's just not my thing. It takes so much time and it takes so
yeah.
much money. And um, I'd rather do something else with
Maybe
4 hours most of
maybe in
the time.
retirement, right?
Yeah.
But I would say like, the one thing I've always appreciated is you're probably not that stereotypical guy in that many ways. But when I see you walk in that vulnerability, I'm like, I actually love the fact that, because I even think it takes confidence, right? Confidence and who God created Dave to be. And you love walking in that, and you're not trying to be some stereotypical guy. I like another great example that really resonated with me is you're like, I'm actually not the horn dog at 9 o'clock at night who's like, there's always room for dessert. You're like, I really resonated with like, no, if emotionally Ashley and I are not in a good place, I'm actually the one who's like, I don't prefer to maybe have sex. Like I would rather emotionally reconcile and be connected before. I'm like, dude, that's actually me, like as well. So it's not your prototypical, right, like male, um, appetite. That's just like anytime, any place. I used to think I was that, and then I got married. I'm like, I'm not. But
Yeah.
I do think as I look back over the men and you specifically and other men I've been around, I'm like, when I started surrounding myself and being in fellowship and men's groups, men's ministries, men's weekends, where I got to see the big buff guy, right, with his 250 pounds, jacked, big beard, big burly man, and he's crying in front of me, talking about, right, his emotions and his feelings. Those are the memories I look back that are just seared into my consciousness of, man, that is true courage. That is true strength. And it actually challenges me. It's like, I walk away and it's like, I want that, like I yearn for that kind of vulnerability in myself. Do
Yeah.
you
I
feel
do
like
too.
you experienced that with other men and that was something that you grew in?
Yeah. I do think that it's something that I've grown in and um, that I'm still growing in, and sometimes like I think I'm the one that'll get like too vulnerable too fast in a group of guys in a way that I'm not trying to do it to pressure somebody else to do it, but I'm just trying to go first to say it's okay, right? It's okay. Like I was at this men's retreat, this like, fishing retreat with all these manly dudes. This was like a year or two ago. And I only knew a couple of the guys there, but we're getting to know each other. Um, and one night we were sitting around this big table, and they're like, "Hey, let's, like I forget how they teed it off, but like talk about, what's going on or whatever." And so I shared some like really vulnerable stuff. Like I like went first, I think, or maybe second, but I shared, some really kind of vulnerable stuff, and I could tell pretty quickly that like a lot of the guys there they were not ready to share that kind of stuff, So
they're like, dude, we're deep sea fishing, man.
yeah, man, like, dude, let's just let's just let's just fish and sip on some beer and talk about football and stuff. And I'm like, that's all fine too, but like let's talk about real stuff. And so I had a guy come up to me afterwards, because after I said it, like whoever went next, like kind of totally changed direction and like, brought it out of that. But I had a guy come up to me afterwards and he was just like, man, he said, thank you for having the courage to just share something real. He said, I'm sorry that like, I know a lot of guys there need that. They need a safe place to do that. And I'm sorry that apparently, some of the guys there didn't and weren't comfortable with it going that way. But, just know that like what you did was courageous and I appreciated it. And so, I mean, I didn't need that, but I I appreciate it. I didn't do it for any kind of like pats on the back or whatever. I'm like, life's too short. Life's too short to just go through it and not ever talk about the real stuff. I don't want to get to the end of my life and all my conversations were just about dumb stuff that is surface. It's like, let's talk about stuff that matters, Yeah, I mean, I'll talk about whatever too, but I don't want all my conversations to just be surface level stuff. Life's too short.
Totally. And I cannot agree more. I was in that place, right, of not wanting to go vulnerable and just, I also love joking, right? I love giving my friends a hard time.
Oh, yeah.
And I was just like, there is a certain point though where one, you have to experience it going bad. Like, you joke with the wrong guy at the wrong time and you really cause a lot of pain. And I think that's a great experience for guys, to go through, to just realize, man, not every joke is worth it all the time. And if it's ever risky, I'm just not going to go there. And two, there's just too much at risk. Like there's just too much at hand. The stakes are too high for us to just settle and compromise and be comfortable in just these surface level relationships. Like men are desperate. And, I think about that fishing trip and what your friend told you. I'm like, that is so true. Operate under the assumption that every guy here is desperate for a safe space.
Yeah.
These guys are craving and dying because they do not have safe space. And not that I'm the savior of the group and I'm going to usher in the safe space, right? But it's, hey, I've experienced safe space with Jesus amongst other men, and I know it gives life. And I love these guys too much for them not to experience the same gift of life.
And that's so good. That's so good, JJ. That's the way I want to live.
Hey, man, I just need to keep you around because you're just so, anytime I say something, you're like...
I need to keep you around, man. I mean, you're such an encourager, and I love your just the genuineness in you. And I think that's some of the secret sauce for you and Kate both. I think that's part of why people love listening to you guys. They love learning from you, and why your influence is just going to keep growing is because people can tell that you're real. They can just tell, like, man, these people are real, and they really love each other. They really love the people they're helping. They really love God, and I want to go on the ride with them.
Well, I appreciate that. I feel the same way about you, and anything that's good out of this podcast and the words that we speak, it is Jesus who's transformed and renewed and brought in hope and brought in compassion and love. I was also just laughing to myself because I need to bring you into like a fight with Kate, and if I say something that's cool or profound, you could just like, that's so good. I'm
just like commentary, like a football commentator. Like, all right, how's JJ going to respond? Oh, that was good. That was
really good.
Yeah, and then she would just roll her eyes, like, who invited Dave to come in?
Yeah, give commentary. She's like, can we get rid of this guy? She's just narrating our fight. I'll just imagine you on my shoulder so my ego can just be pumped up.
Yeah.
Like, that was so good, JJ. That was really humble.
So
and profound.
In fights, imagine me on your shoulder, encouraging you. At the gym, imagine me in yoga pants. And I'm there to protect you, man.
That little angel on my shoulder.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
So you're going to picture that in the gym and then just start laughing. And then the people around you are like, what's that dude laughing about?
This guy's insane, just laughing. Hey, actually, I forgot to ask you, and we'll close on this. We do these icebreaker questions, and it's a would you rather that I ask every guy guest on here.
I love it.
And I was too excited about our episode, so I skipped it. But we'll close on it. So would you rather fight an ostrich and hand to claw combat to the death, or would you rather fight a shark and to the death, but the worst thing that can happen to you is you can only lose a limb of your choice? So you either kill the shark, but if you lose, the worst thing is you lose a limb.
Now, do you have any weapons, or is it just hand?
The ostrich is like, imagine it's Gladiator, Yeah,
you're in the dirt arena, Coliseum, and it's just you and an ostrich.
No,
only one of you
hand
walks
to claw. Yeah, hand to beak.
Hand to beak
combat.
All right.
And sharks, yeah, same thing.
But you're in the water?
Yeah, you're you're definitely in the
like
water.
knee deep water or like waist deep?
I would say swimming pool. So there's a deep end and a shallow end.
Okay, all right. But even the shallow end, is the shark can be fully submerged in the shallow end, so that doesn't really give you an advantage. And there's no weapon, right? So you're almost certainly in that scenario going to lose a limb with the shark because you're not. There's no way to immobilize a shark effectively, other than just holding him off by trying to punch him in the nose where his like nerves are concentrated. But then that eventually is going to make you mad. And
yeah.
And if you can't get out, like is there like a time limit, like where there's a see, that's what I mean.
You either kill that shark or
so so it's basically either do I want to take my chances on being able to kill an ostrich before it kills me, on fighting a shark. Okay, even though the shark, I feel like I'm losing an arm there. I'm gonna trust myself and go with the ostrich because even though they're incredibly strong, they would have a harder time. They don't have the same weaponry to do the damage, and their neck provides a great vulnerability because it's so long. And if you could get a hold of that neck, and cut off oxygen. Just hold on to that neck. You got a lot to put a chokehold on.
Okay, so you're going for the chokehold?
I'm going for the chokehold on the ostrich. Final answer.
Okay.
It's a great question.
I think that's the most it's been like walked out and deduced. And
well, it's a big decision. People don't want to just jump right in. What kind of guy would just say something off the top of his head here? This is your life or your arm at stake.
It is a big decision. I think one day, if it ever comes up, you're going to be fully prepared.
I'll be fully prepared in that moment
to walk through it.
Yeah, some sicko Squid Game kind of guy like kidnaps me, and they're like, "All right, here's the deal."
I would love that. I mean, I'm like, if there's money at stake, I'll do some really, really dumb bad stuff.
Right.
For like $100.
We should do like a cheap version of Squid Game where it's like, what can we get somebody to do for $50, $100, and put it together. So.
Yeah, I love. Kate hates it when I do this. I'm like, hey, would you do that for $1,000? And she's like, no. I'm like, what about $5? She's like, no. I'm like, okay, 25, tax free. And she's like, this is so stupid. But yes, I would do it for 25.
You see, it's not that stupid, right? Because she's got her number.
Yeah.
You found where her number is.
Everyone's got a prize. Well, bro, thank you so much. I love you, man. And this was so much fun for all of us.
Love you, bro. Let's connect soon. You pick the restaurant next time, and you can send me to the wrong place, and I'll still show up. And
okay.
We love you and Kate. Congrats on the growing family. And we're just praying for you and cheering you on. And to everybody listening,
thank you, bro.
We love you guys too.
Hey, yeah. And maybe we'll send out that picture for you and your yoga pants. We'll just, for every guy listening who says, right. That sounds great. I need that picture.
For premium subscribers. You get
This is a Patreon OnlyFans kind of hybrid mix. Okay.
Or maybe they have to pay to not get it. If you send us $10, we won't send it to you.
Yeah, that is so fun. Well, hey, what would you pay to not get this picture?
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you, bro. Love you, man.
Love you, man.